afternoon. It's Tuesday, March 14th. I'm Laura Cornfield, bringing you this brief bulletin. 2 people were killed and 6 others injured this morning when an explosion ripped through a fireworks warehouse in Moshav Porat. A 50-year-old man suffered severe injuries, while 5 others, including 2 children, were lightly hurt. Police are still investigating the circumstances of the incident. Some residents initially believed the blasts, which rattled windows across the moshav, were the result of a missile attack, but that was quickly ruled out. Police and firefighters closed off the scene, where multiple secondary explosions could be heard as fireworks in the warehouse detonated. 1 person is currently missing, and dozens of homes were damaged in the explosion. Tragedy in Holon this morning. A female nurse was burned to death by a 78-year-old disgruntled patient who threw flammable material at her and set fire. The victim, identified as 56-year-old Tova Carraro from Holon, was pronounced dead at the scene. The assailant, who is apparently mentally disturbed, managed to flee the scene and was later caught at the entrance to the city. The incident occurred at the Clalit Health Clinic on Kaplan Street. In the wake of the murder, the Clalit HMO shut down all of its clinics in the Tel Aviv district in solidarity with the tragic incident. In an attempt to avoid tension with the Trump administration, the Jewish Home Party today agreed at the last minute to postpone a vote on the contentious bill which seeks to annex Ma'ale Adumim. The vote was put off until next week. This, as visiting U.S. official Jason Greenblatt is in the region in a bid to revive peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians. IBA's Ari O'Sullivan has this story.
I would like to see a deal be made. I think a deal will be made.
U.S. President Donald Trump said he didn't care if there was a 2-state or a 1-state solution. The main thing was to come to an agreement. And his envoy, Jason Greenblatt, met with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for 5 hours yesterday. The Americans aren't bringing any plans, and he was mainly here to listen. One thing he may have heard was Defense Minister Avigdor Lieberman's declaration that Land for Peace formula was a failure, and the only way to a sustainable agreement is through land and population swaps. He said it was inconceivable that a Palestinian state will be without any Jews, while Israel will become a binational state with 22% Arabs. He said then that there was no need for Arab MKs after a peace deal. In a bid not to prevent Greenblatt's visit from a rocky start, it was decided to delay a vote scheduled for today on the annexation of the West Bank city of Ma'ale Adumim. The Jewish Home Party said it agreed to hold it next Sunday. Greenblatt is to travel to Ramallah today for a meeting with Palestinian Authority President Mahmoud Abbas, who spoke to Trump over the weekend and is expected to travel to the White House soon. This is the first shuttle trip by a fresh envoy sent by a Washington administration that has yet to formulate a clear position on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Will President Trump succeed where President Obama failed? That remains to be seen. Ari O'Sullivan for IBA News.
The arrival of the U.S. envoy to the West Bank sparked some violent protests in the Palestinian city of Ramallah. Hundreds of protesters clashed with riot police, accusing Abbas and the Palestinian security forces of treason for maintaining security cooperation with Israel. PA Security Forces spokesman Adnan El-Damiri said foreign agents were behind the protest to cause internal strife. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his wife Sara both testified in the Tel Aviv Magistrates Court this afternoon against prominent Yediot Achronot journalist Yigal Sarna, whom they are suing for defamation. The Prime Minister and First Lady lashed out at Sarna, declaring that he had unleashed a so-called biblical-sized flood of lies by posting an allegedly false story about the couple on Facebook. The Netanyahus denied that there was any truth to Sarna's 2016 post, accusing Sara Netanyahus of throwing her husband out of a car in the middle of the Jerusalem-Tel Aviv highway following an argument between the two. Sara Netanyahu told the court she believed Sarna was inhuman in how he treated her family. For his part, Sarna insisted his story was accurate and that Shin Bet agents had been forced to intervene following the roadside dispute. The Knesset House Committee is set to convene today to discuss for the first time the impeachment process of Arab MK Basar Ghatas of the Joint Arab List Party, who is suspected of smuggling cell phones to security prisoners. Ghatas announced he will boycott the session and will instead be represented by his attorney. Yesterday, the Arab lawmakers sent the committee a letter asking that his impeachment be prevented. He said the committee does not have incriminating evidence to prove that his actions constitute support for a terror group which he is being indicted of. Ghatas is at the same time working to negotiate a plea bargain agreement which will include his resignation from the Knesset in exchange for dropping the clause which accuses him of supporting a terror organization in the final charge sheet. And now to something personally close to home. Major work sanctions were conducted today at the Israel Broadcasting Authority in protest of the imminent closure of the IBA, which is slated to take place on the 30th of April. According to government plans, the IBA will shut down, paving the way for the launching of the new Public Broadcasting Corporation, known as Kan, which has already declared it does not intend to have any English news television broadcasts. The pending closure, which is the result of a government reform, will leave some 1,000 workers without a job, many of whom have been working for decades to provide the highest level of journalism and media coverage in Hebrew, English, and Arabic since the station was founded in 1948. Workers today took part in an emergency meeting to decide on future steps which can hopefully prevent the move. For its part, the Knesset Finance Committee convened this afternoon to discuss the new corporation's readiness to begin operations. Kan CEO Eldad Kovlentz said his corporation is more than ready to go on air, with the exception of some television content which still needs to be completed. Last night, several employees interrupted Channel One's flagship news program Mabat in an attempt to get the message across. They said, "Today it is us, tomorrow it will be you." In a direct plea to Prime Minister Netanyahu, Finance Minister Moshe Kahlon, and Histadrut Labor Federation head Avi Nissenkorn, workers stressed that as of May 1st, International Labor Day, 1,000 heads of families will be forced to sign unemployment just because government officials have failed in preventing the opening of the new broadcasting corporation, which they said will do exactly the same, just less professionally and with less experience. Turning to Washington, where lawmakers and Jewish groups have lashed out against the Trump administration's purported decision to close the office of the State Department's Special Envoy on Antisemitism. This amid a new wave of phone threats targeting Jewish community centers and synagogues across the United States. The Special Envoy position is reportedly one of those likely to be axed as part of sweeping budget cuts at the State Department. In two separate letters, over 100 scholars and members of Holocaust remembrance organizations, as well as nearly 170 legislators, wrote to the White House demanding that it appoint a successor to Ira Foreman, who oversaw anti-Semitism issues for President Obama. The groups asserted that failing to replace Foreman would send a counterproductive signal during a period of heightened anti-Semitic activity. Since the start of the year, more than 140 Jewish institutions across the United States have received bomb threats. The CEO of U.S. chip giant Intel is slated to arrive in the country today to meet with employees of the Mobileye driverless technology company at their Jerusalem offices. This following yesterday's announcement that Intel is buying Mobileye for over $15 billion in what is considered the largest ever acquisition of an Israeli high-tech company in the country's history. The homegrown technology in Mobileye alerts drivers to obstacles and is reportedly a key element for the world's biggest auto manufacturers to pave the way for self-driving vehicles. During his quick visit, the Intel CEO may also meet with Prime Minister Netanyahu. Shortly after the deal was announced, Netanyahu called Mobileye's head, Ziv Aviram, and congratulated him on the transaction, which he said brings national pride.
That's a vote of confidence for the Israeli tech industry. For a bit less than $15 billion, that's by far the biggest deal for the Israeli tech industry. Just a few years ago, when Google bought Waze for a bit more than $1 billion, that was a huge news here in Israel. But now for $15 billion, that's very big news and very big success for Israel. Intel was looking for a way to go into the automotive industry, to the autonomous car industry, and she signed up a deal with BMW and Mobileye last year, but this is different. Now she's buying Mobileye. Now she's really putting her step into this industry and really trying to compete with companies like Google and Uber and the car giants like General Motors, Ford, and Volvo.
In local money matters, shares were mixed on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, while the shekel strengthened in foreign currency trading. Here are the numbers. Turning to the forecast, and the IBA weather team says we can expect scattered rain showers from north to south with no significant change in temperatures. Here's a look at the highs and lows for the next 24 hours. And that's all for this shortened newscast. Since the future of this broadcast and the entire IBA apparatus remains in the dark, we'll have to update you daily on whether or not we'll be able to provide you with additional English broadcasts. We hope to be back tomorrow here, same time, same channel. Until then, I'm Laura Cornfield wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.